Don't you think that I could be more? Crack that stone we're saying before. Catch your breath and start to transform. On our own we're breaking our door. Don't you think that I could be more? Crack that stone we're saying before. Catch your breath and start to transform. On our own we're breaking our door.
Hello, Milo.
Hello, Jonathan.
You see what we did there?
Yeah, see?
That's a little bit of a joke that has to do with the title of the film that we're going to be talking about today. And so the joke. So what
and
happens?
so what you can tell is we're master comedians.
So what happens in the movie?
You have your fucking stroke?
They say
What is happening?
They say each other's names. Like as if it was their name.
What is this bit that you created of like this stumbly, mumbly character? You fucking crunchy hippie.
That's my new radio personality. Just guy who can't form a sentence.
Stuttering, afraid man.
That's his name.
Yeah,
Stuttering Afraid Man.
afraid man. Hey, hey guys, welcome. Hey, hi.
Hey, so
Hey,
today
guys.
in the traffic, shit. Today, so for weather, there's gonna be,
For weather, we're gonna be listening to smooth jazz.
shit! Oh, fuck!
I would love a radio host who's like, and now for the weather. Fuck! I mean jazz. just really angry. Just out of nowhere.
So today our sponsor is, there was a crash on 57th, so if you want to get a hot pizza, come on down to the Sunny
Big
and
ass.
75.
He just has a nervous breakdown on... I would love it.
Anyways, Jimmy Buffett.
I would love if it was like a radio play, but you didn't know that. So then, he's just like, shit, God, I hate this job. And it's like, Bill, okay, you need to calm down. No, you calm down. It seems like it's an actual fight in the audio booth, but then it it's like you hear him running downstairs and getting in this car, and then an explosion. It's like, oh my God, he lost an arm. We can rebuild him, and but you don't really know at first, and then it just goes fucking off the rails.
Yeah, I bet it would cause mass hysteria.
Well, it'd be like
everyone would
the
be
War of the
really
Worlds
invested.
or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone would be really invested in it.
Yeah. Anyways,
Okay. So
back to the movie.
yeah. So for realness, we're gonna be talking about Call Me by Your Name today. So.
It's a film for faggots.
Okay, I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
Why?
I think Spotify may be cool with that.
I mean, Spotify. Hey, we're two queer men in a relationship. Faggot.
So a bit of a content warning. In all seriousness,
This film contains fags. Sorry. Okay.
in both senses of the word.
Yeah,
there's a
actually.
lot of smoking.
There's a lot
actually.
of smoking. Yeah.
So, fags on fags.
Fags lighting up fags. Fags flaming flat fags. Fuck. Damn it.
Now that's a podcast name.
Yeah. Fags flaming fags. Oh my God, that's awesome.
So, for real, we're going to be talking about sex. We're going to be talking about gay sex. And if you don't want to hear us talking about gay sex, then, don't listen. Or I think it'll be pretty clear when the topic is coming up. So you can just skip ahead a little bit if you're not comfortable with that. I also wanted to give a little bit of a disclaimer that we are not talking about any of the controversy surrounding the book. We're not talking about the author of the book. We are not talking about any of the actors in the movie who have been canceled or otherwise had scandals come out about them. We're not talking about anything in the real world that is related to the Call Me By Your Name story or creation or what have you. We are just talking about Call Me By Your Name as an isolated film as a
Yeah.
piece of art.
However, we will be commenting on their age.
Yeah,
Because one of the characters is 17 and the other one's 24. And they
25,
get
I thought.
24.
Oh, okay, 24.
And they get into a relationship.
So yeah, 17-year-old, 24-year-old, two men who get into a relationship. And the disclaimer that I want to provide is that I do not personally condone adults getting into relationships with minors. Let me be very clear about that first point.
Yeah.
However, that is what this movie is about. And that does happen in real life, especially among gay men.
Yes.
Which is what this film is portraying, is a gay male relationship.
Like-
And I also think that it is not the responsibility of art to portray unproblematic events. I think that's bullshit. I think if you go into every piece of media you consume trying to analyze whether or not it's problematic, you will be unhappy, and you will find that most things portray things that are unacceptable, things that are morally wrong, things that are corrupt, and that's okay because it's art, and it is not the responsibility of any form of media to portray only good or morally correct things. So it is okay that this movie has a big age gap between the characters because that is the story that this movie wanted to tell.
And here's the thing, is that the age gap is 5 years apart. Which is big, but not like huge. It just feels wrong because one of them is 17. Or, the age gap, wait, 17 and
Yeah.
24.
Yeah.
That's not 5 years.
No, that's...
What the fuck was I saying? I was thinking 19. It's 7 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: is that a new movie has come out called Bros, and it's also about gay men. And literally, there's a joke in it where it's like this 30-year-old guy is like, "Look at that guy over there," and he's like, it's just this like ripped 60-year-old man, and they have sex, and that's a normal thing for gay men to do, is to like hook up with people. First off, in gay culture, hooking up is a very normal thing. And also, age gaps as big as like 30 years are normal. Like, there are dudes out there who are straight up like in college and have like partners in their 60s. And that's like a 40-year-old age gap, you know? And that is, in gay culture, socially acceptable. A little weird.
It's very common.
Fringe, but it's common. It's common enough where it is a normal part of the gay sphere. However, a lot of people are really like 3 years around my age, no more, no less. But there are some people who are like, I don't care if he's 80, as long as he's what I'm looking for, and that's a normal thing. And that's, I mean, there's so much that has to go into that. Like, the AIDS epidemic really fed into that, where it's like young gays didn't have a lot of role models that were like the role models went from like people who were like in their 40s and 30s to like people who were in their 60s, because AIDS killed a lot of them, and so people were looking up to much older gay people, and that created kind of this whole culture of like hooking up with older men, because older men were the only other gay people to exist besides people your age, and so that has perpetuated since the AIDS epidemic. There was a million other reasons for it too, but that's just like one that a lot of people will know, since people remember the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah. I totally agree, and I think it's important to examine this film in context. And like, most gay people cannot assume, especially during this time, this movie is set in the 80s. You can't assume that you're ever going to meet another gay person. You can't assume that you're ever going to find love. So when you find someone who is also gay, you are going to connect with that person, and their age or how different they are from you is going to be a completely secondary consideration, because you are just going to be so like
Happy that you found someone.
Right, like it's so meaningful and important to find any other gay person. And so that is another important piece of context for looking at this film, is understanding that for both of these characters, it's entirely possible that this is the first time in their entire life that they have met another gay man.
And that's like, and here's the thing. They might have met someone who was gay, but they would have never known.
Right.
Because
exactly.
it's so socially unacceptable at this point, and in the current times now, in a lot of places, and a lot of situations, where expressing that you are a gay man is not a good idea, or safe idea, or an accepted idea.
Exactly.
And so in this movie, like, who knows? Like, maybe there was some random Italy boy who was like, "Oh, I'm a gay man," and like and saw Elio or some shit, which is one of the characters. Elio is one of the characters, but never would have known, you know, and like that's rare. That's rare for like even one random gay person to just like at least. It's not super rare to like have like just one gay person, but in this time period it is. It's like this like thing of like, wow, one other gay person? Holy shit, I hit the jackpot, you know?
Yeah. That's very real. Like, I think nowadays we think of, if you live in any major city, you probably think that there are a lot of gay people around you, and there are a lot of gay people your age. That's not true everywhere. Certainly, that's not true everywhere in the world, but even in America, that's not true.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's because those gay people were from other places, and they fled to major cities to be with other gay people because wherever they were was not accepting.
Literally, yeah.
Like, that's such a real thing of like a major city having people from all, like Portland, for instance, having gay people from like all over Oregon. Like, I've met gay people who were like in fucking down in Medford, like from around here, or from people from Bend, or from like way over in the high desert region in basically what's Nevada, you know. Like there are people who come from all over Oregon to Portland because they want a safe community space.
Yeah. That's very, very true. So we are we're trying to give a little bit of context and a little bit of nuance to the fact that there is such a large age gap between these two romantically and sexually involved characters. Yeah. And we're not necessarily condoning it in real life, but we're also just trying to communicate that it does happen in real life. There are very real and legitimate reasons why it happens in real life, and it's a very big, huge part of gay male culture specifically. That doesn't mean that it's like a good thing that it's part of gay male culture, but it is like prominent. And so we just wanted to, before we even get into like any of the rest of the movie, we wanted to be very clear about that's what we're talking about, that's where we're coming from. If you personally like don't want to hear about a relationship with that large of an age gap, or you aren't comfortable with that subject matter, then this is also your time to excuse yourself and take care of yourself and all of that.
And also, if you're here like listening in and being like, I don't like, if you're curious about gay culture and you're using this podcast to like further your knowledge, know that this is going to be such a small piece of the pie about gay culture. Like, all of gay culture is not just like hookups, quick relationships, age gaps.
Right.
And, you know, like, queer culture is such a broad, vast thing. And so I would ask you to have this kind of in its own insular bubble until you learn more.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more and then come back and enjoy this for a more enriched viewing or listen, I would strongly encourage that. And I have some really good research to show Milo.
Wow.
Wow.
Good Lord, there's penis. So do you want to get on to our 5-minute Tough Love?
Shit, no. But I absolutely will. However, I will need you to go first.
Okay.
I will have you go first. Because mine will just be like the quickest 2-second interaction, and then the 5 minutes will basically be me rambling.
Yeah, well, that's what it's for. Just give your takes.
I know, but I want you to go first.
Okay. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about.
I don't know either. This movie means a lot to me in a way that I don't think I've in a way that I don't know really how to express.
Yeah, I feel that.
You know, I just feel very in love with this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
My
you ready?
turn. Yep.
3. Oh, also, if you don't know what we're doing, because this is the second time we're doing it, that we will each dump just for 5 minutes, we will be able to just spew off anything we want to say uninterrupted.
Yeah.
It's just to get all of our shit off and to just know where we stand before we go into the discussion and everything.
Yeah. So it's my turn to talk for 5 minutes.
Yeah. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, I love this movie. I think this movie is really beautiful and really affecting, and it's like emotionally devastating. Part of the reason, legitimately, why this episode is coming out so long after the last one is because we watched the movie, and then our plan is always to rewatch the movie before we record the podcast, and we weren't mentally and emotionally ready to rewatch the film until 2 weeks after we had watched it for the first time, because it is so devastating and beautiful, and it's just so much. And so we weren't actually ready to rewatch it until very recently. I think it is very good representation. I've seen a lot of gay media and shows and movies and video games that have gay characters, and this is one of the only pieces of gay representation that I actually really connect with and feel is a good representation. And I think a big part of the reason behind that is that it's not sanitized. I feel like a lot of gay representation is very the characters have to be morally good, and they have to be likable, and they have to be they aren't allowed to be messy and complicated and all of these things that any other complex character would be. The gay character has to be this good, likable, uncomplicated person so that they can be deemed as quote-unquote good representation, so that they can so that they can show a good side of the gay community. Which I understand the thought behind that is there's very few representation out there, so what we write should be good. It should put gay people in a positive light. But I don't think that is necessarily as healthy or constructive as just writing interesting, complex, messy, problematic gay characters, because that's what we are, and that's what I feel seen by. I feel seen by characters who are kind of fucked up and kind of problematic, and they don't have all the answers, and that's what I feel represents me. And so I really appreciate that these characters are messy and their relationship is somewhat problematic, and I feel like the way that they treat each other in this movie is healthy, but it's realistic in the sense that it's not just all hitting one note. They go through a lot of change, and they go through a lot of different stages of how they feel about each other, and they play these emotional games, and I just feel like that is very real and very true to my experience. So I feel very seen by this movie, and I feel very invested in their relationship, and I feel that their love is real. I feel that their love is healthy. I feel connected to it, and I love it. And I think this movie is very unafraid to tell the story that it wants to tell, not the story that it thinks it should tell, or that quote unquote needs to be told. And I think that's like a big problem with gay queer media in general, is that it's trying too hard to wash itself out and sanitize itself to be accessible and, you know, easily digested as content. And I don't agree with that at all. Mm-hmm. So that's just, I really appreciate this movie. And I also think that, like, it's visually so beautiful. The environments, the setting, the colors, oh my god, like, it feels like paradise. And the soundtrack is amazing, and the acting is so good. Like, the chemistry between the characters is so beautiful as well. So yeah, I really appreciate it, and I find the ending to be, like, deeply haunting and affecting and, like, heart-wrenching, and I think that's really amazing. I love it. And that's my time.
Ta-da! That's the time.
All right.
Fuck. Oh.
Okay.
I don't want to go. Alright.
Tell me what you think.
But just P.S.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be short. I'm not
Okay.
going to use my full 5.
All right.
I also really love this movie. The timer started, by the way. I really love this movie. I mean, all the things that you said are 100% the same way I feel. I really appreciate having flawed characters fall in love, and, like, the tragedy of knowing that they have to go. And even though you know it, like, even though you know that they have to leave each other in the end, like, what they had together is so perfect. And, like, seeing two people fall in love and then have to be ripped apart really hurts for me in any movie, but especially because these people are really representative of people in the community that I'm in and I'm with. Like, seeing two gay men being split apart even though they love each other, and, like, one of them has to go, you know, like, that's such a real thing in the queer community, of, like, someone having to leave for a million reasons, you know, like, but, like, having queer relationships be broken up, even if they did everything right, is just, like, such a real life thing. And so seeing it in this movie, it hurts even more, but it also makes what they have so special, because it's, like, truly, you know, truly this is like a representation of what is real, but also what every gay man dreams for, you know? Like, this is, if I could be in this scenario and, like, find someone I truly love, but I know that it wouldn't last, and, like, it would have to only be for however many weeks, I would still take it, because better to have loved and lost than to not have felt at all, you know? And that's such a real thing for queer people in general, not just gay men. It's like loving and losing, you know? Because every queer person has, like, a lot of queer people get in relationships with older queer people because older queer people are already established and they feel like a very big safety net, and, like, they seem like they know what they got going on, you know? They've been out for however long. But for these two people, it's like they're both closeted in a time where being closeted is the norm. And, like, it has to be. And the movie takes place in Italy, which is not the most forgiving country for queer people. It's and so just like this whole scenario, it seems like it's like how could two gay men ever work in that scenario? But it does, and it works beautifully, and it works wonderfully and richly, and it really just makes you think and feel like, man, like this isn't about gay men. It's not gay. It's not about gay whatever. This is just a good love story. It just happens to be about two men. And I think that's really important because I think watching this movie could bridge a lot of gaps for a lot of straight people to see this movie and understand like a huge facet of gay culture, like having to be like an age gap, being split up, being closeted, but still having an authentic, real love that is understood and is seen, and seeing people genuinely happy, and like kind of seeing in a funny way, like kind of like stereotypes, I guess you'd say, of like gay men, because one of the characters is what you would call a brat, and one of them is more of like I guess
A hunk,
I
I guess.
yeah.
A
muscle boy, you know. And so seeing like all these things that are very real to gay culture culminate in a really beautiful love story that is real, it's just really powerful. And I really appreciate that movie for doing this. And I did use my whole 5 minutes by accident.
Nice.
So I'll just do a little fill-in. Andre Achiman, I forget how to... Acumen, he's in the movie. The author is in the movie as one of the gay characters.
Oh my god.
Who's called Sonny and
Cher.
Cher. Alright, that's it.
Alright.
That's my time.
Good job. Hey.
So yeah.
Nice.
So there we go.
You did have a lot to say.
I did have a lot to say. He's this guy.
Okay, gotcha.
He's this guy. In the movie, the author, if you didn't hear what I was really saying because I was rushing it, he's in the movie as a gay man who is out. There are two gay couples in this movie. There's the one that we follow, and then there's one that shows up that's like the already out and old gay people who like are made fun of a little bit by people, and their nickname's Sonny and Cher because they're like a really ridiculous, effeminate couple who like, if you think of stereotypical gay men, you think of them. Flamboyant, and like they're only around for literally like 5 minutes total. Not even that, but it's just that it's like
a little
it's kind
cameo.
Yeah, it's like a cameo, and it also kind of like, for me, it kind of is like, oh, it kind of throws that at you, like the stereotype at you to show like, this is what people think of gay men, and you're watching a real story about real gay men. And like, these are both real people that can exist in the same time. Even though one looks like a stereotype and one feels more real, they are both real. But it throws that stereotype at you to kind of, I feel like, fact check you a little bit.
Yeah,
Where
that's
it's
interesting.
like, it's like, this is a gay couple and this is a gay couple. Both are real, both are happy, both are in love. They're very different. One's a stereotype and one isn't, but they are both very much real, and you have to respect that.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that the movie makes fun of them, but then also like corrects that in a scene where it's like, we'll get into that later, but it's just very nice to see that.
Yeah.
It's very nice to see like a stereotype come on screen, be made fun of, but also get like checked, and for it to not be campy, you know. It's like settles your expectation of like, this is the gay couple I would think of. Oh, this is real love too.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's nice to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's get into it.
I wanted to respond to something that you said about
I don't even remember what I said. It was such off the chest, off the cuff. I don't even remember.
Well, you were saying how it's this short relationship that you know is going to end, and that they're ripped away from each other, and they only their relationship, or rather their period of time where they know each other, is only 6 weeks.
And they aren't together for that entirety. They're only together for like 3 weeks
Yeah.
or something.
And I think that sort of summer fling type of romance is a very common thing in movies. Like, I think there's a lot of straight relationship movies that are about like two people who fall in love and then inevitably they aren't able to be together. And that's they fall in love and they have a short little beautiful like honeymoon phase where they're just like everything is perfect and it's puppy love, and then it feels like ideal, and then they are ripped apart and something happens. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to say, I agree that I think this movie would be a good sort of, I forget how you put it, but like a good icebreaker, I guess, for straight people. Mm-hmm. Because
this
that
is a good
trope
introduction movie.
Yeah, that trope is familiar for a lot of people. And also, I wanted to say, it is more significant and different for a gay couple than it is for a straight couple, because not only is it like they're in love and then they're torn apart, that's always going to be tragic, but on top of that, it's like, this is the only other person who's like me. This is the only other like gay Jewish man who I've ever met or had the opportunity to be close with. This is the only person who I feel like understands me and sees me for who I am. And that is something that runs much deeper. And when they lose each other, it's also like they're losing their potentially only opportunity in their life to be with another man. And so it's not only about losing that relationship, but it's about losing the possibility of ever having a relationship like that ever again. And I think that's like a very... it runs a lot deeper than a lot of straight love stories would.
I think a really good representation of what this movie is like for straight people is the movie oh shit, I just had it in my head, I'm sorry. Lost in Translation with Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson. I think Lost in Translation is a very equally powerful straight movie about like a very quick connection between two people that is very meaningful, and then they have to leave. I think that's also a huge age gap in that movie too, because it's between Bill Murray, whose actor is like, I think supposed to be like in his 50s or something, like he's having a midlife crisis, and then he meets like a 20-year-old like Tokyo girl. But they're both they're in Tokyo, but she's not Japanese.
As much as she wants to be.
Yeah, as much as Scarlett Johansson wants to be.
As much as she tries to be.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so that's...
Yeah, no, I even like the idea of an older man and a younger woman, that's like in fucking so many straight romances. Like, honestly, I think the fact that this movie in particular has caught so much flack is kind of homophobic. It's kind of based in homophobia that, like, just this movie is, like, so many people swear that it's unacceptable and that it's canceled and all this stuff, but, like,
there are other
so
straight
many
movies with
movies
age gaps, and
right,
it's never a problem.
that are still a big, huge part of our cultural, like, zeitgeist, and that are still talked about and are still, like, seen as these iconic movies. I just think it's kind of based in homophobia that it's like everyone's targeting this movie in particular. Like, we can't have those types of characters without, like, it just, everything gets scrutinized way more and gets so much more attention and put under so much more of a lens. Like, I think people just don't want there to be a gay movie, and so if there's anything in it that they can... Like, again, there is a problematic nature to the age gap. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying it's a double standard.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree. I think it's very easy, though, for... the fact that there is an age gap, I think, is like, not super what people's problem have. It's the fact that the age gap is also... under 18.
Right, yeah.
I think that
makes a big
difference. That's a big difference. Because there are movies with, like, an age gap with, like... I mean, fucking no one has a problem with Bond, James Bond movies, where it's, like, the dude's 50, like Sean Connery, the dude's 50, and a girl says like no 20 times and then says yes, and she's 20, and then they have sex, and everyone's like, yeah, that's awesome. You know, it's like, that's pretty problematic, but nobody gives a shit because it's Bond, and it's like, that's expected. But when it's like a gay movie about two Jewish Americans in Italy in the 80s, and there's an age gap that is under like 18, and it's like got this connotation around it of like this kind of like, oh, groundbreaking film. It's like, it's gonna attract people who are like, no, fuck you, this sucks. Sucks.
It is very important to point out the difference between the fact that he's a minor and other like relationship age gaps. Like that is, you're very right in that makes a big difference as to why people would scrutinize it.
I will say though, it does, like, there is a part of it though that is definitely like, really? Like, this is what you're hung up on, you know? It's like, there's so many movies with way worse things that get tossed aside, you know? That aren't scrutinized like this movie is. And I totally agree with that.
I mean, I think you can watch a movie and go, man, it makes me really uncomfortable that their age gap is so big. And then
move on.
And then watch the movie and not like disregard your own feelings about that, but still, you know, take in the story and then critique it as you will. So you could say, wow, this movie, you know, the cinematography was great, the pacing and the writing was really phenomenal, but I really didn't like the fact that there was such a big age gap between the characters. There you have a very nuanced take. You're critically thinking about the media, and you're allowed to think that. And you're allowed to still watch the movie. You don't have to go, I don't like this aspect of the movie, and therefore I'm not going to watch it or even give it a consideration. Like, you should watch things that make you uncomfortable, you know, within reason, like not things that are triggering or would send you, you know, make you feel unsafe, but you should watch things that make you feel uncomfortable. You should watch things that make you question things. You should watch things that you don't agree with what is being portrayed, because maybe there's something else in there that you can gain from it. And you can think critically about things. And I just think that people don't watch anything to think critically about it anymore. They find out that there's some... And people aren't even, like, making things that are meant to be consumed critically. And that's a whole different conversation. But, like, seriously, like, it's a whole issue. And I really believe in, like, thinking critically. And I think this is an example of a movie that you can know that it's problematic and still watch and enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
Like, those two things can happen simultaneously. Do you want to now talk about the cinematography?
Yeah.
Because the first time I watched this movie, I didn't pick up on the cinematography really, because I think the first time I watch any movie, I mainly just focused on plot and emotional beats. I think those are kind of the two things that I really like personally latch onto. But then the second time we watched it, I was like, oh my god, every single second of this movie is filmed like from Elio's perspective. Not like literally like a POV camera, but like
we follow Elio.
Yeah, and like the way that Oliver like comes through the story is always through Elio's eyes. So we see Oliver, like every shot is either like behind Elio's shoulder, or it's Oliver across the room, or it's Oliver through a window, or it's Oliver like through in a doorway. Like we always see him.
It's almost like you yourself are following Elio around and always looking over his shoulder or at him or at Elio. There's scenes where it's Elio alone and we're just watching Elio,
Yeah.
And then there's scenes where, like you were saying, like we look out a window and it's almost like we're POVing from Elio's perspective, like he's leaning out the window and looking at Oliver.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is that a lot of movies will have the characters like jump around, so like you follow one character then the next. If Oliver isn't with Elio, we don't know what's going on. Like
Yeah.
we never see anything happening outside of Elio. Like if Elio isn't there when it's happening, then we don't know about it.
Yeah. And I think that's an amazing like storytelling technique. I think it's like so genius. And like I'm so surprised that I never picked up on it when I first watched it, because watching it the second time it was so obvious. I was like, oh my god, like we only see Oliver through Elio's eyes, and like this is really his story, and that's why it's so emotional, is because you really feel like you're experiencing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really powerful that you feel Oliver's absence so strongly when he does leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like even when he leaves, like throughout the movie, like when Elio doesn't see him for a couple of days, like you feel it.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that there are days where Oliver and Elio don't hang out, and those days basically just are skipped over in the movie.
Yeah.
And so it really feels like nothing significant happens unless it's Oliver and Elio.
Yeah.
You know, and like here's the thing is it's like there'll be a whole day, right, in the movie, like a whole day has passed, but we only see a 5-minute clip of that day because it's Elio and Oliver hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're not together, it's like the whole rest of the day didn't matter. Like nothing else mattered but their one interaction that day. And like the framing of that as a movie, where it's like only when these two characters are interacting does the world matter.
Yeah.
That's really important. Like,
Yeah.
that's a really interesting way of doing a love story. Because usually love stories love to have like, you know, like, oh, now we're gonna go cut to the boy, and like the boy's like, oh no, and then it's the girl, and then they come together, and like we see them apart, and like there's like so many different scenes from both of their perspectives.
Yeah.
But with this, you only see Elio and Oliver, and other things that happen. Like there are shots sometimes of other things. Like sometimes there are shots without Elio, but it's like, oh, it's the beginning of the morning. Here's like the woods, the grass. But once the first character's on screen, it's always Elio.
Yeah.
Elio and Oliver, or Elio.
Yeah.
Like there are framing shots that don't have like a specific character in them, but then
Yeah.
also you there's such a difference somehow, because those shots are usually so wide angled and
Yeah.
up high or really low, and it just seems like a photography picture or like a little clip of a video.
Right.
It doesn't feel. There's a very big difference between when you're supposed to be paying attention. Sorry, I burped. But there's such a difference between the cinematography.
Yeah.
And there's so many wide shots in this movie.
Yes.
Like, there's a scene of just them biking away from the camera for like 20 seconds, and you just get to enjoy this beautiful countryside.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't even see them for half that biking thing. Like, they just disappear, but then it just like, you hear them, and you still get to see it, and then at the very end, you see them like turn a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a relaxing, lazy movie, just like the summer is.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's
there's
romantic.
no care.
The settings are romantic.
And they let you sit in the settings.
Yeah.
There's never a shot that lasts less than like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like
Very
there's no
true.
jump cuts. There's no like back and forth. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And very rarely, I think, throughout the movie does it keep people in the middle of the frame. It's
Yeah.
always like if there's a scene of Elio and Oliver, the camera's in the middle, and you see Oliver on like bottom left, Elio top right, and stuff like that. But when it does focus on a character, when it's right in the middle of the lens, it's always Elio or Oliver. At least that I could see.
Yeah.
Like if it's on the dad, sometimes the dad will be close to center, but never dead center.
Yeah.
Whenever the camera is dead centered on someone, it's either Elio or Oliver.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, that like the camera itself doesn't focus on anyone but the two characters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the like literally it doesn't focus. Like the lens doesn't focus on anyone else.
I think Marcia might have been center like once.
I think once right before they have sex.
Yeah.
Elio and Marcia, the two friends, they have sex. Elio has sex with Marcia before he has sex with Oliver, and the difference between the two sex scenes are so clear.
Yeah.
It's such a substantial difference.
Yeah.
And the cinematography goes into that too, where literally when he's with Marcia, they go up to like this attic, and then he like flops down a mattress, and then it's like very almost like porn like. You know, it's like, oh, I undo my bra. Oh, grab my tits. No, I'm going down your waist. You know, like it almost feels like scripted more. But with the sex scene of Elio and Oliver, they just like make out and then like really try and get their clothes off, and it just seems like they're way more passionate and excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not taking their time because they're not thinking about anything else but like each other, and just like we have to have sex, like we have to be intimate. But with like Marcia and Elio, it's like, let me put on a little show for you, you know, like there's a degree of separation, you know. It's like they're horny, but they're horny not in the way of like
They're performing for each other.
Yeah, exactly. But with Oliver and Elio, they don't. It's just like right into like really passionate sex.
Yeah, and I would say, I would love to say as well that like I think the pacing of this movie is really, really good, and this movie is great with pacing and it's great with anticipation, and like I just wanted to reiterate that when like you as the audience feel Oliver's absence just as much as Elio does. Like when he leaves, there's a period of time in the middle of the movie where he leaves for like a few days on end, and Elio is like miserable and he's just like misses him so much, and you as the audience like feel that really hard.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to say to your point about the sex and the intimacy is that I think it's really significant that he never even has Marcia to his room. Like, they don't have sex in his room. They don't have sex in his bed. They have sex in the attic, and they have sex outside in, like, the grass by the river. Like, there is that separation because their intimacy doesn't even take place in, like, a domestic setting.
Or even
of
in
Elio's room, which is like a
it's
most
Elio's
like,
room,
intimate space.
You know? Yeah, it's like bringing someone to your room versus just like fucking out in the field.
Yeah,
It's like such a difference between like I'm bringing you into like my home. Like
yes,
if anything goes wrong, every time I enter this room, I'm gonna think of that.
Right.
You know.
And with Elio and Oliver, they do have sex in his bed.
In his bed, yeah.
And I think that really also shows like their intimacy with each other. And a lot of this movie is very like domestic bliss between Elio and Oliver because they are living together. Oliver, as the exchange student, is like actually staying in their house, and so
their summer house. They don't live in Italy,
right? And so he's staying in Elio's room, and Elio's staying in like a guest room, which is and the fact that the two rooms are connected, like they share a bathroom, that already is such a level of intimacy that I think really like starts. It's a very clever way to like initiate their relationship, because giving someone else your room is like a very intimate act. Like it's already a very intimate thing to do, and he's sleeping in his bed. Like they're already very close. And then there's a lot of scenes before they actually like get together that are just them like sitting in the same space doing their own thing silently, which is a very close thing to do with another person. Like I think that's so brilliant, because you think of like closeness as talking to each other and, you know, doing things together. But I think it's really clever how actually it's very intimate to be able to have silence with another person. And there's so many shots of them just like sitting across from each other, and Elio's reading and Oliver's like working on his paper or something like that, and they're just like, or one of them sunbathing. Like there's a lot of time where they're just sitting silently together. And then the scene sort of begins when one of them breaks that silence. And whenever they break the silence, it's to say something meaningful or important or move forward their relationship in some way that's way more significant than it would be if they were just talking and hanging out all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I really agree, because moments of silence really matter.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you can just sit in silence and still feel happy and like having a good time, it's like, generally if you're sitting with someone, there's such a felt need to like talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you sit next to someone in like an airport or a library or like a random queue line and like a doctor's office, like you feel the need to like either be on your phone or like look at a magazine and like not in any way like engage, or you like are sitting there for like a few seconds like with your eyes up, and then you feel the need to be like, hi, how are you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But there's such a felt need to either be like, show I am not here by doing something else, or be awkward and say hi. But like just being able to sit with someone in silence and just even do separate activities, or just like sit together and just enjoy something, like a view, like that's really special.
Yeah, definitely. I also wanted to talk about, like, you were getting at the difference between, so there's this push and pull of closeness throughout the movie between Elio and Oliver. Like, when Oliver leaves for those few days, like I was saying, it's because they had kissed for the first time.
Yeah.
And then, so that was their first moment of real, like, showing each other that they loved each other, is they kissed for the first time. And then the next day,
it's not love. I think they both like each other a lot, but I don't think it's love yet. I think by that first kiss, I think it's like, oh, you're like me, I like you, you're hot. Like, we both have really big crushes on each other. But it's not love, I don't think, at that moment. I think over the course of when they get back, I think it becomes love, and you kind of see that transition of Oliver leaves and Elio really is like, oh shit, like I really like this sucks now that he's gone, and that's where it starts becoming like not a crush and it becomes more love.
Well, they use the word love in that kiss scene where Elio says, I love this, and Oliver says, us, and then Elio's like, yeah, it's not bad, you know, he's making a joke, but he says, I love this, which I think, you know, he is talking about them.
That's true. You know what? I stand corrected. It's all it is then.
I think it's a form of love, even if they're not in love yet. But, so, to be clear, Oliver doesn't, like, leave. He just becomes really busy so that they don't see each other. Like, they're still in the same house. He's still, like, sleeping in... Like, he's coming home every night. It's just that he goes and, like, really fills up his time so that he's not seeing Elio. And I think that is... He's pulling away because they got too close. And he says... There's this talk about sort of shame. Like, we haven't done anything to be ashamed of. But he... So there's... In this movie, there's guilt and shame associated with being close with each other that they're both dealing with, and I think that's very real. Is that sometimes, like, I've definitely experienced this, where you get close enough to someone that it becomes too much and you feel the need to pull away, and I think that's happens in a lot of gay relationships. Where you're taught that it's shameful and you're taught that it's, you know, gross or dirty, the love that you feel for another man. And so when you feel it, there's this instinctual, like, emotional flinch that you do almost. And it's really hard to, like, stay with that feeling and continue to pursue the relationship. Like, I think it's very common to need to just, like, fucking pull away for a second, and like it's very ingrained in us to feel the need to do that.
Yeah.
And so that happens twice, because after they kiss, Oliver pulls away. Then later on, Elio leaves him a note that says like, I need you, like I miss you. And I don't remember exactly the words he uses, but so they end up meeting up again after a few days of not seeing each other, and then they have sex. And the sex is this display of like love. Like it's not a hookup. It's not like
we don't
frivolous.
even see it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We see what Marzia and Elio do.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to see what Elio and Oliver do.
Yeah.
The camera pans away outside and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. That's like, it's like, oh, we see like him go down on Marzia. We see like boobs. We see them like fucking.
Yeah.
But we never get to see Elio and Oliver be intimate. We only see it afterwards when they're like just holding each other naked.
Yeah.
We never see what they're doing because it's like it's almost like the movie is being respectful for them. Like,
That's
it's like,
a really good point.
It's so private and intimate that even the audience isn't allowed to see what they're doing because it's just for them.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
because it's the only time I feel like that the camera leaves them.
Yeah.
It moves away from them to look at something else.
Yeah.
Like it's like the camera itself is being polite.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is only for them.
Yeah.
And it never does that throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And every sex scene with Elio and Oliver, we never see it. We never see like a dick.
Yeah.
We do see one thing where like he gives him like kind of a BJ,
Yeah.
but it's like to mess with Elio in a way. And
Yeah.
Oliver gives Elio a BJ just to be like, "Ah, you're hard."
We see two BJs.
Yeah.
Because then we see the one in the attic too.
Yes.
But that's like, again, it's different than the actual sex. Like,
Yeah.
I think you're really hitting on something there, that like their sex is very, it's not meant to be, like it's not happening in order to be sexy and fetishistic. Like we're not supposed to see it. We're supposed to understand that they are becoming closer and that they are showing their love to each other in this like deep and meaningful way.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to be thinking about like,
Them having sex.
did they, who topped and blah. Like all we're supposed to get out of it is that they really love each other and that they're like finally getting to express that with their bodies.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree with everything that you just said. And after they have sex, Elio backs off. He pulls away.
And Oliver shows really beautiful like care and intimacy
Yeah.
to Elio. Like there's this moment where like Elio just kind of gives him like an awkward like like kind of half smile, and Elio like, and then he leaves, and Oliver looks devastated because to Oliver it's like he's so suave and confident, but this is the first time he's been really vulnerable with somebody. And like in a few scenes throughout the movie, he's like, "Listen, I'm like if you feel like I messed you up, like I'm sorry. Like I don't want you to hold what happened against me." Like he's super unconfident.
He knows that, he knows that Elio's much younger than him.
Yeah.
And he's worried. Like he is very conflicted with himself of like, I love this person, but also I could have done something wrong by having sex with him, and he might not feel good about it. Like Oliver is terrified that Elio, feels like he has been violated in some way.
Yeah.
And Oliver's also scared that he did, like that what he did was violating. Like he's very extremely concerned about that. And I think that's like a part of the whole thing of him being sort of that they're both very messy and flawed. But ultimately Elio is pulling away simply because he feels shame and he feels guilt, and he needs the same thing that Oliver needed, where he needs to like just pull back and clear his head because he feels like he's done something that he shouldn't have done. Like, he feels like he's done something to be guilty over.
Yeah, that's real. There's like so many gay men feel such like a shame
Yeah.
about being intimate with other men, and like that's like so many things. And like throughout the movie you kind of learn that like Oliver like makes a joke about how if his dad ever found out like he was gay, he'd send him to like a correctional facility, and it's kind of this offhanded joke, but like that's like such a real fear.
Yeah.
And like so many gay people joke about that, but like so many gay people also go through that for real.
Yeah, definitely. And we also see the shame in the peach scene, which is...
Oh yeah, the infamous peach scene.
Man, if you haven't seen this movie, listen, he jerks off into a peach. But listen. Okay, listen.
It's weird. We get it.
But like it's not, it serves a purpose in the movie. Like, it's well done. It's not like this, you'd have to see it. But Elio uses a peach to pleasure himself, and then comes in it, and then Oliver like comes upstairs and finds him, and is like, finds the peach and is like, oh shit, you're nasty. And Elio is like, I'm sick, aren't I? And then Oliver's like, haha, yeah you are. But then he realizes that like Elio is being serious. Like, he feels sick. He feels like something is wrong with him. And the scene is communicating that like him fucking a peach is equal to him fucking a man. Like, he feels, I should not fuck a peach, but in his mind that's the same as I should not fuck a man.
Yeah.
Like, I should not.
It's a very easy metaphor to get.
Yeah, like, and it's crazy because, now viewing that, you're like, of course those things aren't equivalent. Like, you should have sex with other human beings. Like, yeah, that's normal. But, having sex with a peach is kind of weird. Like, it's not harmful, but it's kind of strange.
It's weird.
And it's not at all comparable to having, like, a human partner who you love. Like, that is a normal thing. That is a healthy thing. And so is jerking off. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, watching it now, in the present, you're like, these two things aren't comparable. But the fact that he feels like they're the same level of, like, taboo and strange and unacceptable is, like, very telling as to how much guilt is ingrained in him about loving and having sex with another man.
And here's the thing, is that I want to say this, it's not from his family. His family and him are very open about many things, and like he has a very loving family.
Yeah, they're very sex positive.
Yeah, and so it's not from that, it's just from being in the world. Like, the world itself, and still is, very homophobic in many ways.
Yes.
And just like being beaten over the head for years and years that like some things are wrong and some things are right. Like, because Elio himself makes fun of the only other gay people by calling them Sonny and Cher.
Mm-hmm.
And he like looks down on them, but they're open and like
he's embarrassed
confident.
by them.
Yeah, he's embarrassed by them, but he himself probably secretly is like, man, if only I could do that with Oliver.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a very good point. Is that having a supportive family really helps. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
But it does not negate the fact that the society that you live in is oppressive. Like, that's something that I have experienced. Like, my family is very accepting. That doesn't change the fact that I have internalized, like, homophobia and, like, all kinds of internalized, like, queer phobia and things that I feel guilty and ashamed about and stressed about. Like, it's the whole entire culture and society. Having a supportive family helps and makes a difference, but you feel oppressed as a queer person, regardless. Regardless. And that's a really good point to make, because his family is super accepting.
Yeah.
I have two little discussion questions now,
Yes.
and I think they'll both be pretty quick to
Okay.
talk about. But my first one is Oliver actually bisexual? Or is he gay?
I think he...
Because there's a very upsetting interpretation of this movie, which is that Oliver is gay,
But he gets married to a woman.
but he gets married to a woman. At the end of the movie, he has to leave. He goes back to America, and then later Elio finds out from him that he's going to be getting married to a woman.
Elio and Oliver share a phone call at the end of the movie, and like a few months have passed. Like it's the dead of winter, and they were hanging out in the summer.
Yeah.
And so it's like all of fall and like probably a month of summer and at least a month of winter have passed. So like 4 or 5 months. And Oliver gives him a phone call, and like Elio makes a joke where it's like, "Oh, you're getting married, I suppose." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm probably gonna get married soon." And Elio's like, "You never told me."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "It's been on and off for 3 years now."
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, that meant it's been on and off because he himself just doesn't care about her.
Right.
Because I do think he is gay. I do think he is gay because
I think he's gay.
I think he's gay.
Because...
I think he's gay, and I think that Elio is bisexual.
Yes. I agree.
But I think Oliver is definitely gay.
I think it's really devastating that he is gay. I
Yeah.
think that's a better interpretation, and it's so
more accurate.
painful because
more
he's
accurate.
like, he goes home and he has to get married to a woman because that's what you have to do. Like, he knows that this, it makes it so much sadder because his relationship with Elio, that was only 3 weeks long, is the most authentic relationship he will ever have in his entire life, because now he's getting married to a woman who he will never be attracted to. Because that's what you have to do.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that happens so often, and
All the time.
sometimes it happens for good reasons. Like sometimes there's something called a beard, where basically it's when a woman and a gay man get married, but the woman knows or sometimes doesn't know that the man is gay, and they just basically just are married and function together, but they aren't in love and they don't have sex.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing where sometimes a woman knows and she's like, "Oh, we're married." It's kind of I guess a green card marriage where it's they're married so that way nobody questions it. But then he goes and has sex with men, and sometimes a lesbian and a man will do it. A lesbian and a gay man will get married and then they'll go have sex with whoever they want. But on legal paper, it shows that they're both straight and they live together and whatever. And so when families visit, it's "Oh yeah, we love each other," and then they kiss in front of everybody or whatever. But they're just homies.
Yeah.
And that happens. And sometimes it's straight up the woman doesn't know, and it's just the guy's "Oh, I'm not feeling up to it tonight," and just they never have sex. And then and he just goes and is "Oh, I got a late night at the office," and he's just going and seeing his gay lover.
Yeah.
And that's all of those are real scenarios, but all of them include being married to a woman of some kind.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not that. It's not that at all. He's definitely getting married to a woman who does not know.
Yeah.
And he asks on the phone, "Is that okay?
Do you mind?
Do you mind?" to Elio, which really just shows how much it matters. But it's also this fucked up question because, first off, Elio never gets to answer. His parents come on the other side of the phone because it's a landline. So they say hi, and he never gets to answer the question. But he looks like he's not okay with it.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Well, I mean, it's what are you going to say? If someone says that you loved is "Do you mind if I get married?" You can't be "Yeah, I fucking mind." Don't get married. You can't say that.
Yeah.
And he can't say that because he wants Oliver to be happy. But sorry for interrupting.
No, it's okay. It's just fuck,
Yeah.
It's a devastating interaction.
And you could interpret Oliver as being bisexual because he also has a pseudo kind of girlfriend that he sees.
He sees one of Elio's friends, Keanu, who's a French girl as well, and they like kiss while dancing.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems, it seems like it's almost like a kiss between like best friends, if that makes sense.
It's
There's no like, it's not like, oh, I really like you. It's just like, I'm gonna kiss you because we're in a position where kissing is a normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like looking onto it, it's like, oh, like he kisses her, he kisses her again, but in the end of the movie, she comes up on a bicycle and when Elio and Oliver are leaving for Bergamo, they stay for a week together alone in Bergamo, which is like this city in Italy. It's a big city.
I thought it was only like 2 nights or something.
Maybe.
I think it was 3 days.
It's something like that, but it's right before Oliver leaves. They finally get to be alone together and only them.
Yeah.
And this girl, Keanu, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She like rides up on a bicycle up to the bus that they're leaving in, and Oliver just kind of gives her like a nonchalant, wah wah, sorry you missed me, and it's like not something you would do to someone you care about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think it was just like either to get Elio jealous,
Mm-hmm. Which is very
possible, or it was just like
the most socially acceptable.
yeah, it was like I have to confirm with everybody else that like, look, I think it's when it's like really obvious when he starts really catching feelings for Elio, and he's like, I gotta kiss a woman so everyone doesn't see that I'm gay,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
And that happens.
That happens, yeah.
And I think you could interpret him as being bisexual, but I think it's more realistic and also really sad
Yeah.
if he's just purely gay.
Which is more realistic, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And like, yeah, totally. So the other person I wanted to ask about is we got to talk about the dad.
Oh,
Got to talk about Mr. Perlman, Dr. Perlman, if you will. Professor Perlman. So, dad theories. Last time we talked about how Uncle Ben is a superhero. Now we're going to talk about how dad is gay.
Yeah, so in the end of the movie, the dad and Elio have a conversation. And they have a very candid conversation, and the dad's like, listen, I know that you and Oliver were in love. You had a beautiful relationship. It's a wonderful speech.
Yeah.
It's very poignant, and like, God, you've got to see the movie, and you've got to see the last speech. Like, don't go on YouTube and just look up the last speech. It will ruin it.
Right.
Like, you have to see the full movie.
Feel it.
You have to feel it. But here's the thing, is that it's like, the dad at the end of the movie, spoilers, obviously, of course. Obligatory spoilers for this entire podcast, always.
Yeah.
Basically, the dad says, like, listen, you two had a beautiful friendship. I saw most parents would wish that, like, it never happened. I am not such a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, like, let me clear the air. I came close to what you had, but something always held me back.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes very clear that, oh, he loved men. And at first it's a little ambiguous of like, oh, you know, like, is he bisexual? But then Elio asks, does mom know? And the dad says, I don't think she does. And I think that indicates that he is not bisexual.
He might be gay.
He might be gay. I think the dad might be purely gay and ended kind of up in like an Oliver situation.
Mm-hmm.
Where he himself... Because he talks in the speech like about killing a part of you and just to feel nothing.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that like he fell in love with a man, then really destroyed himself to make sure that he never felt that way again.
Yeah.
And then just resigned himself to whatever.
I mean, his monologue is too personal. and too
Yeah.
deep for it to not be about him.
It is definitely
Like,
about him.
He had the exact same experience, and he's definitely talking specifically about like loving a man, not just like being in love. Because he says like, I'm. Because at first, like the first time I watched it, he's like, I have come close to having what you two had, but I've never actually had it. And I was like, well, he's married, like he has a wife, like is he saying that that summer fling was like more meaningful than his like entire marriage?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, he's not talking about romance in general. He's talking about loving men.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, man, dude.
Yeah. And also when he's showing the projector slides with Oliver,
Yeah,
and they're looking
yeah.
at these like statues of naked men, he says, he gives this like really nerdy like speech
Like
where
they're
he's
daring
like,
you to desire.
yeah,
them.
he's like, look at them, oh, they're so Hellenistic, and look at their curvature and their features, and they're like looking at slides of just like naked statues of men, and he's like, yeah, they're daring you to desire them. And Oliver like gives him this look like kind of behind his back of like, hey yo. And so I think that is also like a good piece of evidence that it's like, yeah, he's
fruity.
dad's fruity.
Dad fruity. Dad fruity as fuck. And here's the thing too, is that with the dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
We come to learn that, you know, he is definitely a little gay.
Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that when I first watched this movie.
You never know it when you first watch the movie.
Yeah.
Like not until the very end. Like there's no like signs of like gayness from the dad really. He's like, oh, you know, he's a little feminine. But like you never really figure it out until like the end, and then it's just like, whoa. You know?
So the first time I watched it, when I heard that whole monologue, I was like, am I tripping? Like, he's not gay. Like, what is he trying to say? Like, I was trying to figure out what he actually meant, because in my mind, I was like, there's no way that he's gay. Like, this movie, like, it threw me for such a loop. And then watching it the second time, I was like, he's totally talking about being gay. Like, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
It's such a punch,
yeah.
because you realize that like the dad is really happy and loving the whole movie with like his family, and then you realize that like I'm sure he does love his wife.
Yeah.
But it's a love you would have for like your best friend. I don't think it's love that you would have in like a romantic way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like domestic partnerships that are not romantic.
In this movie in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just like in real life with like beards and stuff like that. Like I think, you know, you can have a domestic friendship partnership that's a lifelong partnership that's not romantic or sexual.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think he does have like a very positive, healthy relationship with Elio's mom, even if they're not like romantically in love with each other.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that throughout the movie, Marzia starts taking a back foot to Oliver in Elio's mind. And like, Marzia knows. And then in the end, it's like, they make up and they're like best friends for life.
Yeah.
You know? And it's this very beautiful, poignant thing. But I don't think Marzia knows. I don't think she knows until that moment what's been going on, because she just seems very confused and frustrated the whole movie. And then Elio gets back out of the car, and he's like covered in tears. You know, he's really blotchy and red-eyed, and Marzia knows that was the day that Oliver left, and I think then it finally clicks, and she's like, I get what happened.
Mm-hmm. She says, "I'm not mad at you."
Yeah, and it's like and basically she's like, let's just be friends.
Yeah, she wants to be friends with him because she realizes
what's been
like,
what
oh,
happened.
This was never about me.
Yeah, and
even though like Elio was attracted to her.
Oh, it still is probably.
Yeah,
and like low key, I kind of hope that like it works out for them in a relationship again.
Yeah,
because having Marzia, where it's like childhood best friend. Also someone who understands what Elio is.
Yeah.
And, like, what he went through.
Like, he needs time, but I bet they could get there.
Yeah. And I think that would be like the perfect relationship because it's like they have such an understanding for each other. Because in the beginning of the movie, which I want to point this out, I want to go over some of my notes. In the beginning of the movie, Elio looks down on Oliver and calls him the usurper. But by the end of the movie, Elio is looking up at him in the train.
Oh.
And the whole movie, also throughout the movie, Elio and Oliver get slowly closer over dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they're at the table, they start out on opposite sides of the table, and then and then they end up beside each other
Oh my
for like
God.
every other dinner scene.
That's so cute.
And there's a lot of stuff like that throughout the movie where like Elio looks down on Oliver.
Like physically.
Physically.
Like as in terms of camera angles and whatnot.
But then throughout the movie, they start leveling out where they start seeing physically eye to eye, and then by the end of the movie, Elio looks up to Oliver.
Yeah.
In like a lot of different scenes, you know, and like there's such a feeling of like approval, like needing approval from Elio a lot of the times, and sometimes that you can feel that through camera angles. But also sometimes, like, they physically say it, you know, like Elio in one scene, like, Oliver says, like, I like the way you say things. And Elio's like, I put myself down because I'm afraid you will.
Yeah.
And Oliver's like, are you really that afraid of what I think? And then Elio, like, steps up to him and kind of, like, looks him in the face. And Elio, throughout this whole movie, is so... He's such a brat. He's a brat.
He's a little twink.
He's a Twinkie brat. How would you describe a brat? Just for people who don't know.
Okay,
How do
well...
you spell brat?
B-R-A-T?
B-R-A-T?
Yeah.
Just that?
Yeah. Well, a brat in, like, BDSM dynamics has to do with...
Well, not just BDSM, like in queer culture.
But it's a BDSM specific thing.
Is it?
Because
I
it
thought it was just
requires
like a
you to
queer
be
culture thing.
It requires you to be a sub, and it requires the other person to be a dom. Otherwise, you're not really being a brat.
Well, what's BDSM, you say? Yeah, you probably know what BDSM is.
Well, so with being a brat, because if you were being a brat to someone who didn't want to dom you, then you would just be an asshole.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like,
you need to be, in order to be a brat, you have to be in a relationship or have someone that is also into you. Because otherwise you're just being a dick.
right. So
But-
being a brat involves provoking or teasing or
Just-
egging on.
They enjoy being a little bit of an asshole to the dominant partner.
Yeah.
Like they like to push the envelope and act really like, oh, what would you do about it? Or
Yeah.
like messing with him and like punching and like being like really
not actually punching.
not
but
actually
like
punchful, but like
roughhousing.
Yeah.
Messing around.
you know,
And-
and that kind of behavior.
The idea behind it is that then the dominant partner will like put them in their place and
Yeah.
take control and like behave in a dominant way to then like tame, quote unquote, the brat and have them then show their submissive side. So it's basically a way of making the dominant person have to earn the submissive behavior of the submissive partner. And so it's a very specific, like, playful type of dynamic within BDSM, and it's definitely, like, very well and accurately represented in this movie.
Yeah.
It's a very good representation of BDSM dynamics, even though you never see BDSM in the traditional sense of, like, spanking or
I'm
getting
pretty
tied
sure they're
up
not
or
even into
whatever.
BDSM.
Right.
probably.
It's not about, like, they're not into BDSM in the bondage and,
They're just the roles.
right.
They just have plain vanilla sex, probably. It's just that their roles are very like brat, dom.
Yeah, they have dominant and submissive roles, but they don't have like that is still BDSM. BDSM isn't just like whips and handcuffs and all that stuff. Like BDSM has more to do with like emotional and sort of like behavioral roles and and behaviors than it does with like equipment.
Well, I have a few things I want to go over.
Okay.
There's a scene. There's this one pool on the property of this villa that they live in. That basically.
Turn your phone off.
I'm
God
sorry,
damn.
Fuck.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm popular. Jesus. Sorry, I'm getting alerts. So there's this like pool that they like swim in, and at one point, Elio keeps looking at Oliver, and when Oliver like turns, Elio like looks away, and Elio like they have this conversation, and Oliver asks what he's doing, and Elio says like, "Oh, I'm doing my music," and he says, "No, you're not." And I really I never thought about it, but that is because Oliver totally knows that Elio is checking him out.
Yeah.
And then that goes into him being like, "What are you thinking about?" And he's like, "It's private." And he's like, "Oh." You see, and then he goes and he's like, "I'm gonna go hang out with your mom." And like, but he knows for a fact that he's thinking about Oliver.
Yeah.
And I think that's very funny. Like right off the bat, you really see this whole thing between them.
They're very affectionate with each other.
Okay, also, there's the dancing scene, which is so 80s and so good.
Love My Way.
Yeah, Love My Way.
It's a perfect song for this movie.
Well, I'm just going to say, the way you can tell that Elio wants to be in Oliver's arms rather than the girl he's dancing with. And you can really tell he's pissed because Marzia is flirting with him and asking him to like dance, and he doesn't even like respond. Like he's so checked out, and he's like leaning forward, smoking a cigarette and like toe tapping, and he's like biting his lip, and you can tell he's so jealous. And then and the song is playing where it's like a beautiful woman, or like, you know, it's something like that. But then all of Elio's friends leave to go dance, and he's alone, and he finally lays back and seems comfortable. Like he's not hunched over. He sits back. He opens up his like body posture and his body language. Like he spreads his legs. He opens his arms off his chest, and he's way more comfortable. And he goes from like really angry jealous to like kind of like more of like a contemplative stance. And the song switches from like, beautiful women, I love women, to Love Your Way.
Love My Way.
Love My Way. And it's like, it's like such a perfect thing of like, when Elio's alone and he's comfortable, he wants to like love Oliver. But when there's other people around, he feels like stuck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like, it's just such a beautiful metaphor. Really good.
All right. This has been Call Me By Your Name.
For your plebs out there.
We gave this movie some tough love.
The music.
We weren't really tough on it, though. We gave it some love.
We just gave it a lot of love. No tough. No tough this segment, just love.
We were tough on people who are closed-minded about this movie and the topics it explores.
But we aren't loving people who are into pedophilia. Let's make that real clear.
Yeah.
Just because it worked for them doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Don't date minors.
Don't date minors.
Just chill out.
Chill out.
Everybody, don't just. All right, be cool.
Be cool. Please be cool. Please do not use this podcast as a thing for giving pedophiles attention.
Yeah.
Don't.
I hope we've been very clear.
Yeah, please do not think that we are cool with pedophilia. We are not.
We are not.
We are not cool with that. Do not do it. Stop.
Yeah. All right.
Alright.
So next time we're going to be talking about Alien.
Oh. I thought it was going to be Ghostbusters. So yeah, we're going to be doing the original Alien movie. Because it's Halloween! It's Spooktober! Ooh!
That's
Spooky!
right.
Oh! Yeah! It's the Halloween sounds.
The spookiest thing of all is gay sex.
Yeah, the spookiest thing of all is dealing with queer people. So, we're going to be doing all spooky, scary movies.
Yeah.
And we're going to be trying to pump them out. Sorry for the long wait. It's been weird. I got a job and Milo started school.
Yeah, we're figuring it
So we're
out.
figuring it out. We've just been busy. So we've got a good schedule now. And we're gonna so boy howdy, good God, we're gonna get it.
All right. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for watching.
Go kiss a boy.
Kiss a man straight on the lips.
That's copyright
It's familiar,
infringement.
but not too familiar, but not too not
Dude,
familiar.
there's an alternate
Yeah.
there's an alternate version of this movie where Oliver gets with the dad instead of with
No. Also, there will be a new segment on this podcast of Dad Theory, where every movie we will go into how a dad
Yeah.
is something.
Yeah.
That might be a challenge for aliens, because I don't think
I don't
there's
think
a dad
there's a dad.
in Alien, but we'll make one, by God.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
has to be a dad because there are babies.
Yeah.
So there's some like drone worker guy who is a
Nutted
dad.
in the Queen.
All right. Anyways. Dad watch.
Dad watch. Alright, bye guys.
Bye.
Never stray, cause I know we